All right, we got a 2-for-1 on questionable advice from Bear here on the Patreon channel. Mirko Mirko, our buddy Mirko. We love him. And Pastor Wayne both have questions pertaining to children. Pastor Wayne's question was prepping for kids, namely shoes and clothes. WTH, man, how do I do it? And I'm paraphrasing. And Mirko, his question was sheltering in place or bugging in with a 1.5-year-old and a 4-year-old. Thoughts? Question mark? What do you think, T? Well, we have a 2-year-old, a 10-year-old, and an almost 12-year-old. And believe it or not, before we had the 2-year-old, the 10-year-old and the 12-year-old were younger. Yeah, it's funny how that works, but there for a time, they were little people, like truly little people. And so I don't know everything there is to know on this subject, but I do know something about it, to which I'm happy to share. Now, first things first, with shoes, whatever size your feet are, Pastor Wayne, that's probably how big your son's feet are going to be. I'm just throwing this out there. I have no scientific evidence other than what I have observed throughout my life. And of course, there's always the exception to the rule, because these are 13 triple E, and my dad wears a size 10. Not quite the same. But our daughter, our eldest daughter, she and my wife have the exact same size feet. So shoes-wise, maybe get a pair that's a size and 2 sizes bigger than the shoes you have now. You could be like Staff Sergeant Badass at SOS and just get really good at leatherworking. Buy you some cows, which you use for meat and milk, and then learn how to brain tan the hides, and then make your own boots. That would be freaking amazing. However, I would think the likelihood of that happening is pretty much 0. So what we do with our kids is we try and stay a few sizes ahead with clothes. So if they're wearing a small, for example, we'll buy some mediums for them to grow into, which I'm sure you've already thought of. And you don't have to buy them all from like the most expensive place to buy clothes, whatever that is. I don't buy a lot of clothes. Although I just told my wife, I was like, I don't need any more clothes. So if anybody wants to get me presents for anything, I'm good on clothes, unless they're like nice clothes. I don't really wear nice clothes anymore, especially now that I live out here in Arklay, Texas. The light! Ah! Can you see my breath? No, I can. So, you don't have to buy your clothes from theexpensiveclothesplace.com. Okay? You can buy your clothes from the Goodwill store and get some pretty dang nice clothes for next to nothing and prep forward for your children. And if you never use them, man, garage sale them on Facebook groups, sell them, donate them back, whatever, right? But have a rolling inventory of stuff for your kiddos to wear. And we more or less do that. We also know several people who have children the same age as or slightly older than our children. And so when, like for example, a brother from the assembly, next time that we see them, I have a standing order to text him and let him know that we're coming so that he can bring some clothes for my eldest daughter, because his oldest daughter is a couple years older than mine and a couple sizes bigger than mine. So you might think about that as well. strategically knowing people so you can inherit their clothes post SHTF. But really, man, just think forward. The shoes is tough. The shoes are just, there's not a really great answer to that, man. Other than keep your eyes peeled. If you see something that's a good deal, a good value for your money, and you can afford to buy it, put it on a shelf, and then you can have it going forward. Rubber boots also, especially for kids growing up, you can get rubber boots that are a couple sizes too big. If your kid wears a size 8, get some size 10 rubber boots, and they can wear 2 pairs of socks if they need to, and eventually down to 1 pair of socks. And then even then, those boots, the way rubber boots are cut is that if you had to, you could wear, if you're supposed to wear a size 11, you can still pretty much wear a size 10 and you'll be okay. But that'll buy you a little bit of time. Not that rubber boots are the best footwear, but they're better than nothing. And they'll keep your feet dry, which is something on a day like today where it's just pissing rain outside. So it's tough, man. I acknowledge that it's tough. And all you can really do that I know how to do, other than this chicken has a death wish. This is number 7 for this chicken. I think it wants to lay an egg in the bunker. Other than trying to think forward and buy what you believe your children will need, or strategically knowing people to inherit their clothes, I don't have a whole bunch of input on that. Other than telling you what we do, which I just did. We just try and buy a few sizes too big before we need it. So just get a jump on their growth. And when they start wearing the mediums, we'll start buying the larges. And when they start wearing the larges, I'll start buying extra larges, and so forth and so on. Now, after the balloon goes up, I would bet money that swap meets and yard sales, like literally people buying, selling, and trading out of their front yard, will become a thing. We'll probably see a resurgence of the town square, which I think would be cool, right? Of people buying, selling, trading, bartering their stuff. I've got 8 eggs. I will trade you 8 eggs for that pair of boots. I don't know, those are pretty nice boots. What else you got? Well, I got this old folding knife. Done. I'll take it. Okay? So that plays into the argument of population density, because I think population density is the worst and the best thing you could have going for you, depending on where you are and what the population is. Too many people's a problem, a big problem. But so is not enough people, I'm coming to find out, because I've been talking with a lot of people here on the interwebs. Us, Pastor Joe, the Arkansas Preparedness Network, lots of people, you know, the Millennial Man, lots of people are preaching tribe and community. But some people are having a hard time building tribe and community because they're so far off the beaten path, they can't find another person. Right? They might find another person, but that person's into, you know, crocheting, not the end of the world as we know it. So I think it's good to be near a small town. Not too close, not too far. Maybe a day's walk or so. It's good to be near a small town that if you had to, you can walk into town and trade your wares and get you some shoes or a new belt or kick a chicken in the face or whatever you got to do. So, that's my answer for shoes and clothes for children post-SHTF. And I realize it's not a great one, but it's the answer that I have. It's my truth to speak. That's where I'm at with that. The next thing is our buddy Mirko. What do you do when you have a 1.5-year-old, an 18-month-old baby, and a 4-year-old, and you have to shelter in place or bug in? A lot of what I just said applies to that. At 18 months old, within the next 6 to 12 months, you ought to be done with diapers. So encourage potty training, but let's be honest, you're either stocking one thing or another. You're either stocking diapers, which don't burn, so you can't burn them for trash. I don't even want to think about diaper disposal post SHTF. Or you're stocking 5-gallon buckets, cedar wood chips, hummus, and toilet paper to poop in. Like, it's sanitation one way or the other. So stock the sanitation things. 18 months old, man, you're into solid food, so that's good. That's one less thing that you have to worry about there. You may still be doing the boob milk, whatever floats your boat. But as far as clothes, we just talked about that. As far as sanitation, you're stocking one thing or the other. So I'd stock a little bit of both. Go up a size and a couple of sizes on the diapers and project out what you're going to need. And obviously with young kids, I'm betting money you don't have a lot of money to throw around. I get it. So maybe look into cloth diapers. Keep the old ways. I don't know. I don't know the answer on that portion of it. But sanitation-wise, you need to figure forward what are we going to need and then prepare for it, just as you would anything else that we prepare for on this preparedness journey that we have going. This freaking chicken. What shall we throw this time? How about a chem light? How about another chem light? Oh, it's on now. You're dead to me, chicken. Roar! These effing chickens. They don't respect boundaries, you know? They're just really terrible people. They don't respect boundaries. It's raining outside, otherwise we'd be outside. But I swear, they hear the sound of my voice and they think, I'm gonna go be where he is. Even in the bunker. It's kind of obnoxious. Man, one of those chem lights cracked when it landed. By cracked, I mean it's been activated. I'll be right back. Or whatever those drug addicts do out there at Burning Man. All right. Getting back to... good, we've got more chicken ammunition here. Getting back to the issue at hand. Sanitation. We talked about sanitation. Figure forward. Food. You're eating solid food, or your babies are eating solid food at this point. That's awesome. Clothes. We talked about that. What do you have for enrichment and education on your bookshelf? Think about that. Seriously think about that. Aside from Mother Goose rhymes or whatever, which is good to have, but at some point you're going to need like something to actually educate with. I'd say it would be a good idea. Maybe it's a homeschooling course or something. Maybe you got some friends that are homeschoolers, have them print you out in a curriculum or something, you know, be thinking on that so that you can feed those children education if needed. Spirituality, man, I don't know where you're at in your walk. I don't know if you're walking at all. I don't know what your deal is, but whatever your thing is, have a way to feed it to your children. Food. You better have food, brother. And we factor for all of our children in food storage. And grandma, who's 80, none of them, well, I say none of them, my two older kids eat more food than I do. This is not an exaggeration. By weight, they eat more food than I do in a day. I eat more at a sitting, but they eat more frequently. It drives me insane. And so we factor for everybody under our roof a full grown man's portion, a man's portion. Women have lower caloric needs during the day, generally speaking. We figure a full grown man's portion for every person. One of the people here is 2 years old. But at some point, she's not going to be 2 years old anymore. So your food storage, you need to be factoring for grown people, not little people. Or you're going to come up short. You don't want to come up short, because once you come up short, now you have to do drastic things with a much lower return on investment and a much higher risk. So don't do that. We mitigate risk around here. That's why we're into preparedness, because we figure forward. We're able to look objectively at a situation and say, that's going to be a problem. There's probably some things I can do now that will make that less of a problem then. Right? That's what preparedness is. So, other considerations, if your children, I pray that they are healthy. If they're not healthy, or there's a certain thing, like if they have asthma or eczema or whatever their thing is, you need to get, and it needs medication, you need to get your hands on that medication as much as you can. Medication is one of those things that by and large is overlooked in preparedness, unless you're one of the people who's dependent on it, in which case those people are very concerned about it. My mom, for example, is medically dependent on certain prescriptions that without which she will die. My mom has no endocrine system. It's a really long story. I'll share with you guys some other time. I've touched on it briefly in other videos, but she has no endocrine system. So without the meds that she takes, a common cold will kill her. What do? If the balloon goes up, and I've been telling her, Ma, stockpile meds. Luckily, one of the members of our MAG, I will say no more other than to say, that person is in a position to provide the stuff that my mom needs. So we are working that out now, but that is completely dependent upon a resurgence of community, a resurgence of rule of law at some point. Otherwise, I mean, it really is a ticking time bomb with my mom, and we know that, and it sucks, but we're all open and honest about it, and we address that. We know, balloon goes up, we have X number of days with grandma, my mom, and that sucks. That really sucks, but that is what it is. And you better bet your derriere we're going to cherish those days and make the best of them, right? With this, and this is stuff we've already talked about. These are the things, figure forward, we have to think about as preppers, survivalists, right? So bugging in, man. Bugging in's, I hope you're in a place where you can do that safely, because if you have babies, man, you know, little people that you're responsible for, and you're in a bad place where you think you're going to have a higher likelihood to be using this kind of stuff than you really should be, then you need to leave now. You need to get out on a piece of land, away from almost all of the people, but not so far away from the people that you can still build a team. We'll just say nearish to a small town, so that you don't have to subject your babies to daddy getting shot because he's working a checkpoint, or somebody kicks the front door in because they want the stuff that you have. These are real considerations, and I don't say any of this lightly. We upended our life in Texas and came here because of these very reasons. Your job, I don't even know what you do, Mirko. Whatever it is, there's something else you can be doing, or there's somewhere else you can be doing it. All of us. All of y'all. Everybody. There's not a job on the planet that's worth your life, let alone the lives of your children, the lives of your wives. There's not a job on the planet that's that important. I don't care who you are. I don't care what you do. So I'm going to call BS on that with as much brotherly love as possible. Because if you're looking for an example, it can be done. So, if you're bugging in, I'm hoping that you mean bugging in by being... I'm hoping that you mean bugging in by being in your home already away from Babylon. Not in your home in or near Babylon. Because that's probably the most important point that I can hit for you is at some point, if there's too much population density near you, it doesn't matter how well you've prepared. You're just stewarding your stuff for somebody else sooner or later. And I know there's people that disagree about that with me. Squid is one of those people. And I love him too. He lives where he lives and I live where I live. He's got his team and I've got my team. And it's just kind of, it is what it is. I don't have to see my team until I need them or I want to see them. And then we see each other and we love each other and we cherish our time together and we go about our separate ways when we're done. I don't have to see them pulling in and out of the community that I live in every day. The paved and asphalted community with the picket fences and the HOA approved bushes and all that. That's not my cup of tea. We moved away from that to be here for these very reasons. To be spiritually fulfilled, to be mentally and physically prepared, emotionally prepared, spiritually prepared, and to start actually taking action to be as ready as possible. So bugging in, I would pray that you're bugging in a place that's not in a populated area. And if you are, if that's your plan currently, I would strongly suggest that you develop a plan alternative to that. That you leave and go someplace else, preferably now while you can, while there's time, and not when you're under the gun with you and your wife and your kids. So, man, I didn't mean to get heavy there at the end, but I really feel convicted in that. If you can leave now, for real. And don't go move to, northern Alaska where it's 1.5 people per square mile. But you don't want to live where there's 15,000 people per square mile either. So, things to think about. Shalom.